Hello and welcome to what is sure to be a historic, unforgettable Knicks Film School post-game show. My name is Andrew Claudio, aka GMAC. That is DJ Zullo. We are filling in for John Macri, who is en route from Madison Square Garden. You will get Macri's reaction, we promise. But DJ, down 101-96 with less than a minute left. We were writing our eulogies. We were analyzing what to say. And before we even get to analyzing the game, what just happened?
Bro,
what just happened?
I don't know how you guys, this is the first time I'm doing one of these after a game like that. And I don't know what just happened. Like, that was 101-96. It felt like the game was clearly over at that point. And then Jalen Brunson, and we're going to talk about the performance and the shooting and the lack of everything he's been doing on the court, but he manages somehow to get off a highly contested three that he's just able to sneak over the front of the rim in the corner. And then it's like the Detroit game during the regular season, they figure out a way to somehow get a loose ball and a turnover. And then DiVincenzo, who I thought was just incredible the entire second half, his physicality, his defense. And then just to make that second three, like, the balls on this team is it's the most, I don't know what else to say about it. They just never quit, and it looked so dire there. And they just never, until that buzzer is going to sound, they were not going to stop scratching and clawing and prying the ball. And then, the Hartenstein offensive rebound after the first DiVincenzo three, he comes flying in with two hands, with 76ers wrapping their arms around him, trying to sneak it out. And he figures out a way to get to Anunoby, who has the presence of mind to get it back to DiVincenzo open for the three. It's like there's all this chaos that happens in like the most intense moments, yet they're still able to like function like a basketball team and make the right pass. Like, I am in awe of them, of what they can do on a day in, day out basis, game in, game out basis. So we're processing this. That was just, it's up there, man, of games at that building with that crowd. It's going to be an all-timer.
I went back to the LJ 4-point play in the moment, thinking about it as it happened. I went back to the 99 run, because when stuff like that happens, you start to think, something special is happening to the team you're rooting for, specifically this basketball team. And look, there's a lot to get to. The Knicks largely, it's ironic, honestly. It's fitting the way the game ended, where they get a little bit out of Jalen Brunson. It wasn't perfect, but the ball bounced in, right? And then the end of the game, when Deuce McBride is checked in offense for defense, a good sub by Tibbs, it was fitting that they got this thing done. They ended the game without Jalen Brunson on the floor. That this team, 2 through 8, fittingly closed this out, because they picked up their leader, their warrior, who is just struggling in this series. Some of it is forced by Nick Nurse. Some of it is just him forcing things. When every time he was used as a decoy in the second half, I thought the Knicks had good offense. The shots that the Knicks were making down the stretch was when he would draw the help and draw the double team, find an open Hartenstein, find an open Deuce, find an open DiVincenzo, and him struggling looked like it was going to be the story of this series. But this team pulling out a W ends up being the story of this game. And look, I remember this, Knicks fans. These are games that you're going to look back on, regardless of how this series goes, regardless of how this playoff run ends. We're going to remember game 2 against Philly. That's what we're going to remember. And by the way, I have to throw some humor into it, DJ. I'm not the smartest. I'm not the sharpest tool in this shed, but I want to make sure I have my spelling accurate. So how do you spell Philly?
They spell Philly.
Yeah, like the normal way.
Philly.
Right. So there are back-to-back L's in Philly, is what you're telling me.
There are. Yes.
So you can't spell Philly without back-to-back L's, baby. Get them up out of here. Knicks win. We could start to break down this game.
Yeah.
We should just remind everybody, John Macri, for those who don't know how to read, is en route. We have been saying it for 3 days. He was at the game tonight. He is on his way to the post game. He will join us later on in the show. The story of this game, one just break down the last minute? What happened? Like the how we got there? I have no idea how to talk about the first 47 minutes of basketball without over exaggerating how insane and how joyful I am over the last minute.
Well, I mean, there's so many. I'm trying to think of like where to go, and I think I have to just put this out there. I thought Embiid in the second, and it's been a trend now where he'll start the game with a certain ferocity and physicality. You could just see it by where he's catching the ball in the first quarter of these last 2 games, and then as the game moves on, the knee gets creakier, his conditioning gets worse. He really starts to wear down. So credit to him for just being out there. And I thought Maxey was just dynamite, but the Hartenstein performance, he was really not himself in game 1. And I thought in the second half, he and Brunson were able to get a little bit of a rhythm going. For all of the struggles with how Jalen was playing, I thought he did a good job of finding Hartenstein a few times in the third quarter to get him some dunks, get him to gets that floater shot that Hartenstein has been so good at in the second half of the year up into the playoffs. So I thought Hartenstein really got the Knicks going. And then that block on Maxey, who was going 1,000 miles an hour, to block it before it hits the backboard, leading to the OG Anunoby rebound and free throws. I mean, that is just an elite defensive play by a guy who has been an elite defensive player all season long. So hats off to him. I mean, I thought Hartenstein in the second half just outplayed Embiid. Even granted, Embiid is hobbled and compromised. We get all that. But I thought from where he was in game 1 to turn it around in game 2, the Knicks clearly don't win the game without him. And that defensive play is going to get lost a little bit because of the Brunson 3 and then the DiVincenzo, obviously game-winning 3. But that Hartenstein block is going to go down as one of the better defensive plays in Knick history in a playoff game in a big spot. It was an absolutely brilliant play.
The ironic part about this, we could literally go 2 through 8, as I was saying earlier, and point out a moment that everybody had. You can't tell the story of this game without 48 minutes from Josh Hart. Specifically, the first 24 minutes of this game had 21 points, 15 rebounds in this game. Play again, all 48 minutes. That first half, I thought we were headed for a double-digit deficit at the half, especially the way that most of the team was playing. And Josh Hart, get this, DJ, with his shooting, kept the Knicks in the game, hitting all 4 of his threes in the first half. Then Dante DiVincenzo in the second half, I thought picked it up. 5 of 10 on the night, 4 of 8 from 3. I thought he was great defensively as well, in passing lanes, helping on the dig. I thought OG Anunoby, specifically on Maxey, played a good second half. Also hits the 2 clutch free throws to make it a 3-point game. At the end, you mentioned Hartenstein finishes with 14 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 big blocks. I thought Mitch, when in the game, played well. We can't
second half started getting defensive, offensive rebounds.
We can't tell the story of the fourth quarter without 2 humongous Bojan Bogdanovic threes to break a Nick Nurse zone. And then Deuce McBride continues to impress. Scores 9 points off the bench tonight. You want to hear a wild stat, DJ? You know what was the only negative and plus minus for the Knicks tonight?
Was it Anunoby again?
It was Deuce McBride, -8.
It was Deuce?
Yeah, and he didn't look like a -8. It's why you take it with a grain of salt. He's now a plus 27 for the series. The story of this series so far, for me, and I thought the Philly role players played very well, but it's that the Philly Big 2 has largely showed up for them. And outside of like a Kyle Lowry performance here in game 1 and like a Kelly Oubre defensive performance, they really didn't get anything from their role players. I thought collectively they got moments from their role players tonight, but not to the level that this Knicks team, again, 2 through 8 has given them. Especially if I told you that Jalen Brunson would shoot 8 for 29 in one game and whatever he shot in game 8 for 26 in game 1, and they would be up 2-0. You would have called me crazy. It's the story of the series so far. The Knicks are up 2-0 without really getting what we all expected from Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, and I tweeted it because it felt like an important thing to note that the Knicks were leading 90-82, seemingly in control of the game in the fourth quarter with Jalen on the bench. He comes in and Philly just right off the bat, it's like they attack him on the defensive end. He gives up a 3 to Lowry, and he just couldn't get anything going on the offensive end. And the Philadelphia goes on an 18-6 run. The Knicks need to figure out this Jalen Brunson situation. I think it's deeper than him just missing shots. I think there is a significant issue here that the Knicks are going to have to wrestle with, which is something we can talk about as we look towards game 3. Not right now. Right now, it's about celebrating what this team did. And I thought you mentioned DiVincenzo, his toughness, his ability to get in the mix on things. He was blowing up DHOs left and right. I mean, the Sixers and the Knicks are two of the number 1 and 2. I don't know how many teams are ahead of them, but they are amongst the league leaders in just amount of DHOs that they each run. And DiVincenzo was blowing up as many as he can get his hands into and just making everything tough for the 76ers on that end. Not to say anything about the shooting on the offensive end, which is absolutely huge, especially with Jalen playing as poor as he's been playing. So, it's like the Knicks had 12 second chance points on the night, which is a low number for them, but 6 came in the fourth quarter. So I think just by that, you could start to see that as well as the 76ers did in keeping the Knicks off the glass, that they weren't able to sustain it for 48 minutes. They did it for like 42, but the Knicks in the end were able to get enough on the glass to make a big difference, including, of course, the sequence where Hartenstein came crashing in and Embiid's there. Now, Hartenstein is coming from about the free throw line, so it's not clear. Like Embiid has to take the man next to the rim. I'm not sure who that was. It might have been Josh Hart. So Hart's basically unimpeded going to the rim, but he goes up with 2 hands. And then if you watch that play, there's 76ers around him trying to wrestle the ball out, and he to find his bearings and get it to Anunoby, and then the swing to DiVincenzo. I mean, that sequence there was just a testament to, again, what I said as we started. It's like the grit and the toughness, but also the awareness to make the right play, which was DiVincenzo relocating to the top of the key, Anunoby finding him. It's just, and then, I mean, the mental toughness for DiVincenzo to get himself ready to take that shot after missing the one previous in that sequence. There's something that, it's like the We Here team had this level of toughness and grit, but it's like this team has it, but they have the talent and the skill level to really make that pop in the playoffs. And we're seeing it now where the Knicks are up 2-0 against a team with stars that are performing really well, despite the fact that Embiid is compromised. He's a presence out there. And the Knicks are 2-0, like you said, with Jalen Brunson playing 2 of the worst games. Arguably, if it's you can go back to games he's probably played worse, but in big spots, I mean, he's been terrible for 2 games. The Knicks are up 2-0, so you got to be at least pleased with that. You got to figure out, because if they're going to make a run here in the playoffs, or true run, they're going to have to figure out a way to get him easier touches and better, smoother offense. But to be 2-0 after Jalen's playing the way he is in games 1 and games 2, I think you got to feel pretty good about where you are, about how good your role players are playing and how just seemingly unafraid they are. And there's a lot of guys that they don't have a ton of playoff experience. I mean, Anunoby, he was not there for the 19 Raptors. He was hurt. So he didn't really get firsthand experience in a big playoff run. DiVincenzo doesn't have a great experience in the playoffs. So these guys are doing it despite the fact they don't have a ton of experience on this team. So hats off to them. I'm every game I see them play, I'm just more in awe of their grit, toughness, and just mental fortitude, physical fortitude. They are as tough as they come, and they are just in a dogfight, in a rock fight, and they've come out on top 2 games to 0. You got to feel good about going into game 3. They're in a great spot.
I'm still speechless, DJ. I agree with everything you just said. I thought it was well broken down. We have some John Macri reaction that he tweeted out. Would you like to see it?
I would love to see it.
Yeah, I'll pull it up on screen now for everybody. So here's the first one. This is just his face that he posted. Jeez, John.
Well done.
Okay, and it's
great editing on that, John. Awesome.
It's vertical, so unfortunately, that's all we got. And then the next one.
Hey guys, 30 fucking years I've been watching this team. 30 fucking years I've been watching this team. I ain't never seen any shit like that. Oh my God! This fucking team!
Oh, I love that.
I'm so happy for it. He put out a thing on the Twitter that and I knew this. We all they probably knew this about him, but the 8 points in 8 seconds game was his birthday. And I believe he was in the building for a birthday party for it.
Oh my gosh.
Regardless of whether he was it or not, for that to be synonymous with your birthday, it was his 12th birthday. Really happy the Mac Man got to be in the building for a historic moment. 2 things before we get to some segments and some for those, again, John Macri is en route. He will be here to give a post-game reaction as well. Take over for me and DJ at that point. But first thing, you mentioned some things to potentially get things better for Jalen Brunson. Are you seeing what I'm seeing, that fourth quarter, he was very much forcing it to try and okay, I struggled for this game. Now I'm going to turn it on and put this game away. It didn't seem like it was, he was forcing it over double teams. It was one-on-one coverage, shots that he normally makes. That there were certain moments where it was like, okay, we could have run a play. You could have hit a wide open man on the roll. We could have called something different. Are you seeing what I'm seeing, that it's not all just other factors and it's for the most part, Jalen just struggling?
Yeah, I think he's certainly, I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but I think the biggest thing for me personally is he's at his best in 2 areas where he's getting downhill and he's not getting to the rim, but he's getting just outside the restricted area, specifically on the left side. And he's getting there with floaters, short mid-range shots. Those are highly efficient shots for him, like over 50%. He's not getting to that area. Like when he gets downhill in the series, it's to 17, 18 feet instead of 12 feet. And that difference matters. And he's doing it over length that he's gonna have to shoot over. So that alone, on that area, his shot diet is much tougher than it was at any point in the regular season for a sustained period. And then the second area where he's dynamite is when he's getting catch and shoot threes or he's attacking closeouts. He's not getting any of that right now because, and this is something that's been discussed and the broadcast brought it up a couple of times, when you don't have a second creator, you're going to give up that shot profile a little bit. Now, the Knicks have done a decent job as the season moved along to try to figure out ways to get him catch and shoot threes, allow him to attack closeouts, but that has dried up in the series. So if you're taking away 2 of the more efficient areas that he can dominate and you're forcing him to shoot over length time and time again in the intermediate mid-range and long mid-range, then he's going to shoot better than this. You expect him to shoot better than this, but I don't think with this shot profile, you're going to get anything close to the MVP that we saw during the regular season. Now, the next question is what do you do to fix it? And that is going to take a lot of for me at least, try to figure out and watch this game again and see if there are areas that you can try to improve upon. Now, they did at one point when Embiid left, go to an empty side pick and roll on the right with Paul Reed and drop, and Jalen was able to attack him. And then when you don't have anyone in that strong side corner, you have ample space to sort of operate. Knicks do a good job primarily of getting him double gaps, so where you have gap defenders, but you can, if you remove one of those defenders, that's called a double gap. So you have extra space to sort of make your moves, make your decisions, get downhill. That was one of the few times the Knicks were able to manufacture a situation where you got a double gap, you're able to get downhill, and you're able to attack Paul Reed and now Joel Embiid. That makes a big difference too. So there's areas that the Knicks can certainly make life better for him. But if you're not getting another player generating gravity on their end and Jalen playing off those players, and he's not getting downhill to the areas that he can really flourish, then the Knicks have to ask some tough questions about what you can do here. Now, the Sixers just may be really well equipped to do this because of their length on the wings and Embiid as a drop defender. I thought he's been playing really well in that specific defensive coverage. So the Sixers just might have his number. Now, if you go back to the regular season, take away the January game, Jalen Brunson has struggled all year against the 76ers. This is not just a playoff thing. So that to me is pretty alarming, but the Knicks are up 2-0. So you can sneak your way through this series, and he can, whether it's Milwaukee or whomever, as the Knicks go to the next round, should have a much easier time generating good offense. I think as this series progresses, I think the Sixers are just a tough matchup for him.
It's been that way all season. Yeah, I pointed out.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, good. Finish that. Yeah, I think you're right about that. It's been that way all year with this team.
The stat I've been using the last couple of days, really since his performance in Game 1 this season, and it continues now, because he's only shot under 31% from the field 4 times this 12 times this season, 4 of which have come against the Philadelphia 76ers, 2 of which have been the last 2 games. I mean, look, you don't want to look at it from the Sixers perspective, but to get the performance out of Brunson that you could say you forced for the first 2 games, to be down 0-2.
Oh, you're sick.
I mean, what are you thinking at the moment? Especially the way both games you. So I said this to XJ at the watch party, and I said it to John after the game on Saturday, that when you lose a game that you probably should have won, you're playing from behind for the rest of the series, in the sense that you've got to now win an extra game. It's like you've already won one, but you let it slip away. So it's like you got to win 5 games in a series. Bill Simmons talks about this a lot in the emotional factor. If you're a Sixer fan, you're probably thinking, we've got to win 4 out of 5 against this team when it feels like we should have won 2 already. So it's like we've got to win 6 games out of 7 in this series. So I'm not going to go hyperbolic and say, oh, this series is over. I'm sure we're going to get reckless in the super chats later with that. But that team has, in my opinion, has officially been gutted. And now the Knicks, with 2 of the remaining games at the Garden, there's a good road team. And they just kind of haven't gotten anything out of Jalen Brunson yet.
Right.
If you're Philly, how do you even begin to pick up the pieces here?
Well, if you're going to look at it from like the positive side, they were able to limit the Knicks on the offensive glass. Whatever they're doing against Jalen Brunson is working. And Maxey has been really good in these 2 games. Now, the problem is, and this is going to be the issue for them, is that you've had this play out 2 games in a row where you get Joel Embiid coming out and looking good, looking like not quite himself, but close to it. And then as the game progresses, Stan Van Gundy called it out on the broadcast around the 3rd quarter, midway through, that defensively he was just a shell of himself. And then in the 4th quarter, I think it was the 4th quarter where McBride missed the layup. That was the 4th, right? So they showed it on the replay where Embiid wants to go and sprint and try to get him at the rim, and he pulls up because he just didn't have it in him. And then the broadcast was noting on the sideline where he's really getting a lot of work done on that knee, which is just something where he looks good at the start, and then it just wears him down as the game progresses, because not only because of the injury, but the team he's playing against is just hitting you in the head with a baseball bat for 38 minutes that you're playing. And you got these 2 centers, and I thought Hartenstein, the one foul at the end where he had his hands in, and Embiid had the N1 on the left wing, was just disappointing, because I felt like the Knicks have been pretty disciplined against him, guarding him one-on-one, but they are just 2 physical centers that he has to go up against. And when it's not them, he's got Josh Hart crashing over his back. He's got OG Anunoby coming over from the weak side, guarding him in some situations. So the toll that he is taking on a game-to-game basis against this specific team has to add to the wear down factor, which is clearly happening now 2 games in a row. That to me is like of all the alarming things that the Sixers are experiencing, is that they seemingly can't get a full game out of Embiid. And if that's not the case, it's probably not going to be their series.
You see me fiddling with my camera, by the way. For some reason I'm out of focus. I apologize, folks. I'm trying to make it work. Here, let's go to full black, and then I think I need to white balance the difference. All right, it's good enough as of right now. Which is what the Knicks have been.
I do love seeing you in 4K. I mean, you are a handsome devil.
I'll take it. Thank you.
I would prefer 4K over anything.
Oh, it just adjusted. There you go. Just like a lot of adjustments Tom Thibodeau made in the second half of this game.
Well, can we just also make mention? You mentioned the 2 Bojan shots, just massive, and it was like, I don't want to pat myself on the back, so I didn't do anything, but I did tweet like right before that the Knicks needed 2 Bojan shots, and it like immediately happened, and it just felt like the way their offense was going with Jalen playing like he was, that they just needed something from him in the first half. He didn't score a bucket, and it just felt like for them to pull this game out, they were going to need him to do something on the offensive end, and those 2 shots just were key to sort of give this team a little momentum. And it's the playoffs. It's the Eastern Conference. Every possession, every basket is just worth its weight in gold. So hats off to Bogey for hitting two really tough contested. That first one was just a rainmaker. I think it scraped the top of the building, but important shots for him. You talked about 2 through 8 a few times. It's just so important to keep referencing that because the Josh Hart first half performance, the DiVincenzo, I thought in the second half, his grittiness, his toughness, getting in passing lanes, like you mentioned, and just doing a good job. And then the shot making. And then again, Jalen making that 1-3. And it's, again, another tough look, but he was able to get that ball to go. And then the turnover and then all the ensuing chaos after that. So it really, truly is like the ultimate team effort that this team continues to put forth. Yes, they're led by Jalen, but they could certainly pick him up. They did it the final game of the season against the Bulls. They've done it for 2 games here against the Sixers.
What a team and what a what a ride this has been.